This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network. Presented by Hearthside Bank.
I want to start with the Rick Barnes situation because everyone was upbeat, everyone was feeling great as of last Saturday at about 2:15. By about 4:15, it was back to Rick Barnes can't get over the big one. He can't catch the big one, can't get over the hump. It is rather amazing that he has evolved, he has improved, he's gotten you to 3 straight Sweet 16s, he's gotten you to back-to-back Elite Eights. These are all things you've never done before, even in the Bruce Pearl years. You didn't have anything of this kind of consistency, and yet still can't get to the Final Four, and that's what drives people mad. Will, my question for you, what's been the reaction all week long on 99.1 The Sports Animal?
Honestly, the most of our audience has been kind of sympathetic to Barnes here, almost feeling bad for him and feeling bad for the players versus being angry that it didn't happen. And so it floored me, man, because I would have thought, how many times have we seen this? And I'm going to have just 1 million people reached out, second round, Rick, here we go again. That's not been the case. Part of that is I think Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Meshack are so beloved. Hearing them post-game, seeing those press conferences post-game, there seems to be, I don't want to say a free pass, but there's sympathy probably for Rick Barnes right now as opposed to criticism for Barnes for not being able to break through the glass ceiling there.
All right, let's just swerve to that right then. Is that a good thing? I mean, you look at where he is. I mean, there are cases in history where you can say, well, look at Mark Richt. They got rid of Mark Richt, and they brought in Kirby Smart. There are a million cases where that doesn't work.
Yeah.
There are other places where you look at, well, it took Bobby Bowden 25 years to win a national championship, but he did one. Tom Osborne, it took him forever to win one, then he won them back-to-back. So is it a good thing that Tennessee fans are kind of, the majority of them, in your opinion, giving Rick Barnes a break and saying, no, this Elite Eight, that's pretty good for us. We're okay with this.
I'm going to cavalier the question a little bit because I think there's a good and a bad to that. I think it's good that they aren't fire everybody. Sometimes
they
that can
usually
be crazy.
are.
They usually are fire everybody and bring back Bruce and the whole 9 yards. Yeah, there's none of that.
No, I wouldn't say there's none of that. There's that Bruce Pearl crew that's out there.
That's true.
That Pearl crew
very
is
vocal minority.
Never going to accept anybody other than Pearl. So they've been waiting, and they had to wait a long time this year. Now having to wait into the Elite Eight before they can say, see, Barnes can't do what Pearl can do. You've got that small group, but for the most part, you do have guys who seem to be happier with it. What's your good and what's your bad?
The bad part of that though is that's not good enough. It's not. You should if you're going.
It's the Elite Eight. I mean,
it's the Elite Eight.
So we're demanding the guy gets to the Final Four.
And the key is there's a difference between you're firing everybody and I want more. I think that it's okay to want more. We're both Celtics fans. Making it to the Eastern Conference Finals with a young team was fine, but we wanted more, right? So getting to the finals and losing because we shot 45 threes a game, we wanted more, right? So, and then finally Jaylen Brown starts driving the ball and Celtics win a title this past year. So I think it's fair for Tennessee fans to want more while also celebrating the accomplishments of the people who were there. You can have both. For whatever reason, the first ticketification of sports has made it where it's either fire everybody or the coach can do no wrong and there's coach worship, right?
Well, and you also you have a blurred line between a goal and an expectation.
Yes.
I think the goal is to continue just to make a Final Four, to get to a Final Four. I don't know that you can make that your expectation at a program that's never done it.
Well, no, I agree there.
And it seems like
and there are only 4 teams a year out of 360 that actually make it, right?
Yeah, and you could argue last year, I mean, it came down to their superstar at Purdue was a little bit better than your superstar at Tennessee. It was that game boiled down to Edey and Connect in a one-on-one kind of a NBA game. Edey was better.
Yeah.
Those happen. You go back to the time that Bruce Pearl lost. It's a tip-in. Those kind of things happen. So I don't look at this and say, it would be one thing if Barnes always got there and they always got smoked. That would be something else. I do want to mention this. What about, we talked about how much the players love him. You mentioned Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Meshack are both very popular, and they said after that game, man, they talked about we wanted to win it for Coach. We wanted to prove how good a coach he is. They said it through tears. You had the same thing they talked about last year after the Elite Eight loss. Players talking about we wanted to do it for Coach. We want to get it. I got a concern. They came out and they were shooting short right off the bat. So you could say, well, were they tired? Did they expend too much energy against Kentucky? Possibly. Or were they pressing? They look like a totally different team against Houston than they did Kentucky 40 hours earlier, where they weren't tense.
It was casual.
It was casual and it was business.
Yep.
They came out against Houston and it was like, boy, these lights are brighter tonight than they were the other day. And I just wonder if did they get tight trying to win for Barnes, because they know if they don't, guys like us, we'll be talking about it. People will be tweeting about it. It'll be on the message boards. Do you think they pressed a little bit?
Zakai said afterwards, I wanted to win this for him. We wanted everyone to see how good of a coach he is, right? He said that. Meshack said that. So I think there's some portion of that that's true. I do wonder also, those players know no one's ever gotten past this from Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So for themselves, for Barnes, they're pressing all together. But I agree with your thesis that Tennessee was pressing and that they got shook. Meshack missing the free throws. Chaz Lanier short on the three-pointer. Zakai has to get benched early on because of the way that he was playing. I mean, that's not a thing that's happened before. No. And Zakai Ziegler is usually a ice in his veins kind of guy, and he was not in that spot. And I do think the Rick Barnes, everything that's – because it's not just us. It's everyone nationally says this about Rick Barnes as well. I think that was in the back of their head a little bit.
And part of that's just that unfair crap I was seeing that during the game. It was like, here comes Barnes into March. And it's like, whoa, wait a second.
You're in the Elite Eight.
You're in the Elite Eight for the second straight year. Let's dial back.
For the third time in the history of your program.
Yeah, so let's dial down but that's the national snark fest that you get into. Everything's about snark now. And you're going to be snarky about anything. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. You just want to be snarky and have other people pass it around. So you even have some big sites that take their shots there.
Yeah.
It does seem, though, here's the interesting thing that I can't figure out. We've talked about that he has evolved his offense a little bit over the year. I mean, last year, I worried when Dalton Knecht came in, is he going to sit this guy when he doesn't play defense? No, we saw him ease up on the reins. Still would yell at him about the defense, but he wasn't benching him for his defense. He realized, that guy's special. We're going to leave him out there. You saw him evolve his offense at times this year. But the one thing that doesn't change, and I can't explain it, he's been in 29 NCAA tournaments. This is either 28th or 29th, I think 29th. In all that time, and he hasn't always been a 1 seed. So he's played a lot of seeds higher than him. He's only beaten one of them. You have to go back to 2002, 23 years. He was the 6th seed at Texas. They beat the 3 seed in Mississippi State. That is the only upset by seed for Rick Barnes in this tournament. And he's gotten them where they were supposed to go the last 3 years. A 4 seed went out in the Sweet 16. That's where you're supposed to go out. A 2 seed goes out in the Elite 8 to a 1 seed. That's where you're supposed to go out. And the same thing happened this year. 2 seed, Elite 8, lost to the 1 seed. I'm beginning to think if he's going to make a Final Four, he needs to be the 1 seed.
He needs to be a 1.
And the year he made the Final Four, he was a 1 seed. He was a 1 seed.
Yeah, that's a massive sample size too.
Yes.
So it isn't like every little. Those aren't LeBron stats where no one's ever scored more points in the third quarter wearing a purple headband. That's not that. That is a massive sample size of almost 30 years.
Yeah.
So I think Barnes is sometimes maybe gets a little tight in a big spot. He does not make adjustments in game. He has sometimes this year, which was the wild thing to not see it against Houston, but he doesn't make adjustments in game the way that some other coaches don't. He still dances with what brought you. And you could do that back in the day, but I don't know a sport that you can do that in the year of our Lord 2025 and get away with it.
Well, and you could sit there and say, well, he's got to bring the offense, got to improve the offense. You can't win all defense. Houston's pretty close to what you are. They're a little bit better offensive efficiency. Your offensive efficiency rating is kind of right behind them.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. Now, their defense is a little better than you two. Houston's a better team. But still, it's not like your offense is 75th in the country. You're now top 15, top 17 in the country. It's hard, out of 364 teams, it's hard then to say, well, he's just all defense. We just watched Kelvin Sampson with how many times did we say last week going into that game, this is like mirror images, these programs, the way they
average the same points per game. They average the same points per game. The difference, I would say, is...
And Houston actually plays slower. The pace of that game the other night was 56. You had slowed it down against Kentucky where the pace was 60. It was 56 against Houston. They really play slow. But the idea that, the problem with Barnes, I don't know what it is. You can't just say, it's the offense. Well, he chokes in big games. Makes the Elite Eight. He didn't choke against Kentucky. I mean, it's hard for me to put a finger on why can't this guy pull an upset in the tournament?
Yeah, well, I do think some portion of it is that it does seem like he relies too much on the point guard. It does seem like he does not have, like the difference between having a big man for Houston that can go with the left or the right hand with his back to the basket or face up, that matters, right? And Tennessee doesn't have that in Okpara. Maybe he develops that next year.
Yep.
Tennessee hasn't had that since Grant Williams. So
who also wasn't a big. I mean, he played bigger than he was.
Yeah, so
you developed him.
You don't have that where you have an inside-outside scoring option. I do think that he has certain things he wants to do and certain tendencies, and when it gets tough, he reverts back to that. I agree with your thesis, though, that I think this time his players needed it because his players were panicked early on.
Yeah.
So I think even if he wanted to evolve, I don't know that if he could have played a more evolved version of Tennessee basketball because his players couldn't handle it.
They were shook.
Yeah.
They were shook. I mean, it was clear from the get-go. When they come out and the first shot is either it barely scraped the front of the rim or it's an air ball out of Chaz Lanier. And then when they're coming up short, they're missing on the front of the end zone free throws.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just they were shook.